What is up, everybody? I'm Jameson, welcoming you to our third edition of Ask Us Anything or Maker's Questions here on Ripstop on the Record. We have collected questions from the good people of Instagram, Reddit, as well as our email list to turn those questions to the infamous products team and get some super stellar info. So welcome, guys.
Greetings. Glad to be here.
Me too.
So part of my preparation for this episode was doing some research on the past editions of Ask Us Anything. So let's see, those were episodes 2 and episode 34. And in my research there's a really fun little section where people asked Carter and Kyle, because Kyle was on episode 2, what the best life advice was. Carter, do you remember what you said?
I absolutely remember what I said.
And?
I said, well, actually, the question was to Kyle. But then after he answered, I was like, I'm going to say mine too. And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure the best life advice I've ever received was, Carter, keep your shirt on. This is a funeral. And that was from my grandmother. And I will never forget that. It's still meaningful now. I feel like I'm in the gas station at Sheetz, I'm about to order some breakfast sandwiches, and I remember, keep that shirt on, boy. Don't you take it off.
So the other half of that question was if you had any work advice, and you said you didn't have any good work advice. Is that still true?
Definitely. I'm still looking for it. I asked then, hey, you guys, and this goes for now too, leave comments on Instagram, leave them wherever, send them whatever avenue you can. Give me some work advice that I can follow, and I will follow up with you guys and say, like, hey, I got 4 more things done, or maybe I'll tell you that it didn't work and I actually didn't come into work because it was such bad advice. But
so still true. Isaac, in episode 34, you were asked what would make a good canoe bag, I think, or dry bag, and I'm pretty sure your first answer was, if I remember correctly, you said if you want to do it right, it would be waxed canvas. Do you stand by that?
No, actually, I think you should just use wax paper. Like from your kitchen drawer.
Oh yeah, that stuff.
Yeah, wax paper.
Durability.
Yeah.
Well, it's ultralight. And Isaac's since episode 34, he's switched over.
I'm on an ultralight path.
Do you remember the first episode you were on?
With Rod.
Yeah, it was like ultralight versus bushcraft kind of deal.
Yeah. He had been here for 30 minutes.
Close.
We were like, hey, Isaac, welcome to the team. You're on a podcast now. Probably hundreds of people are going to listen to you. All right, have a good one.
Yeah. We have a lot of amazing questions to get to. But first, I want to ask you all a question, or the first question you're going to get asked. What can people do to show the love of the podcast?
Well, firstly, I think you could subscribe to the podcast, listen to it, set up notifications on wherever you listen to them so that you know when we drop one. And then I think the most important thing that every podcaster hopes for is that we get some reviews. So rate us, give us some reviews on however you listen to podcasts, and tell us if we're doing a good job. If we're doing a bad job, kind of just maybe don't rate that and just let us know, and then maybe we can
let us know privately
for you. Yeah, let us know privately. But yes, please review. It's really helpful to us, and it helps us reach more people that can, be empowered to make their own gear and maybe laugh twice for the whole series.
If you like us, please let us know. It means a lot to us, and it helps the ratings.
Yeah, and then that also means that we can keep doing this because it looks like we're doing something productive.
We can tell Kyle and Jason that we're actually working.
Yeah. So it helps out.
We can get Isaac a new set of headphones that has sound out of both sides, okay? This is more like a GoFundMe.
Yeah, the studio looks really fancy and it sounds cool. And we're like, oh, we have a studio now. This studio is completely hand built. Like those sound panels are held up by spray painted washers and nails, so they look secretive. But this is low budget, but we're just trying to do the best for you guys.
It's gonna get demolished in 19 days.
Yeah, literally.
Cue In the Arms of the Angels.
Next question: what products or what things do people need to be aware of?
So we just released a few things, I think. I never know when this is coming out, but I should know that. But so we just released some new shock cord variants, which we've been excited about. We've had those in-house for a little bit, but that includes colored shock cord that's color matched to our different fabrics. So we have Moroccan blue, burnt orange, dark olive. What else am I missing? Neon, which matches our other cordages that we have. That's both in solid and reflective shot cord, so that's awesome for if you're using it for guy lines for your shelter or on your backpack or things like that. We also have new colors of Austere Manufacturing cam buckles, which it looks like I was looking today, and it looks
4 new colors specifically.
It looks like the orange we've already sold out of.
There's one in my desk, so we have one more to sell, I think.
Yeah. There we go. So I'm thinking that we're going to be restocking those at probably much higher quantities, which is exciting. I'm glad that people are willing to pay that much for something because they recognize how awesome they are.
Just want everybody to know how well this podcast is already going. So far, the last 3 questions have been answered by the wrong person, consequent like in an order. So things are going great right now. But you answered everything correctly.
Hey, well, Isaac gave me the look. You asked, he looked, he saw his name was on it, and then he looked at me, and then so I, that's my guy.
Yeah,
so.
Fair enough. All you need is a look, and you know what to do.
We're gonna have to cut like 94% of this, but
no, it's not bad. Finally, new stuff sack kit. The DIY stuff sack kit that we gave away at Trail Days is going to be released June 6th. For those of you watching the video, that's the one right here. For those of you that are listening, there's 3 stuff sacks in one with a really detailed tutorial video, QR code. It's the entry-level kit to get you in, teach you all the things that you need to know to get into DIY.
And finally, we have the Community Maker Challenge. This is a challenge designed for everybody, from beginners to advanced sewists. So if you want more information about that and you want to win some cool prizes and get some notoriety, just follow the link in the bio.
Sweet. Thanks, Jameson.
You're welcome.
All right.
I just wanted to keep the theme flowing.
Yeah, I like it. Everything's out the window, but it's all good. Yeah, on to the main topic. So the way that we've organized these questions breaks all the things that we've taken into about 8 or 9 sections. So things like fabric application, questions on current products, questions on product development stuff, Dyneema, thread and needle questions, making questions, sewing machine questions, and then I think there's a few on apparel. A few other. So the amount of questions you all sent in was incredible. Thank you so much to everyone that submitted a question. It really means a lot that people would take time and put in an intentional question or even a goofy question that you want to get an answer from us. So thank you to everyone for doing that. Now, with that in mind, we're not going to get to every single question, and we're sorry for that. We would answer every single one if we could, unless it was like another question I heard in episode 2 where someone said your website blows. So we don't want to answer that one, but we did because we respect it.
I remember what I said to that too.
We don't need to go over that though. That's okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to answer as many as possible, but there's a good chance that this is going to go into a 2-part series. So you're going to get a bonus episode released on July 13th, 1 week after this episode is released, where we'll go over whatever doesn't fit into the time allotment because we respect your time and we don't want to give you a 2-hour episode. So jumping into category number 1, which is fabric application. Carter, you have the honor of taking the first question. So let's dive in. I'm going to read and then you're going to give us your answer. Bruce Walk, thanks for sending a question, man, asked, what is the softest feel fabric you have for quilts and bags for that inner layer that avoids the plastic feel and may even feel silky soft while still being capable of using down as an insulator? Oh, and perhaps there's 2 answers. One might be more lightweight than the other. Both cases are of interest to me since I make both ultralight gear as well as items for use in car and home. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Bruce. So for the inner layer, I think that the least plasticky feeling downproof material that we have is our 155 Multicam. It feels really, really good. The only issue with that is that it's Multicam. Sorry, Isaac. So if your quilt doesn't match those colors or you're not down with that, then I would recommend going for the 1 ounce Hyper D or the 1/1 Ripstop. But I hear people tend to like the 1 ounce Hyper D more than that, and it's a little bit lighter. So
he asked for downed quilt though, so he's definitely down with it.
You've been hanging out with Jason too much with all these dad jokes, dude.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, Bruce, hopefully that helps, man.
Isaac, you got the next question. Matthew Abrams said, I want to create some underseat canoe bags, rectangle, maybe using 1000D Cordura nylon, for storing items like maps, snacks, sunscreen, etc. But it needs to have some structure. in the bottom of the bag so that it can remain flat and not sag when items are placed in it. What do you recommend sewing into the fabric as a I lost my place. What do you recommend sewing into the fabric as a stay/stiffener? I was thinking of a thin, flexible cutting board. What do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Matt, or Matthew. I don't know which one you go by. So we've used flexible cutting board for a lot of things, like bike bags, backpacks, coolers, lots of things. Flexible cutting board is probably the best and easiest solution because you can either go to like Dollar General or Dollar Store or just Amazon and get some of those. Next to that, I would probably say like a thin foam, like if you had a very thin yoga mat, or something like Reflectix, which is usually used for like garage door insulation. You can find that at like Lowe's or Home Depot or any of those big box stores. But yeah, those are some good options.
You can buy like different weight thickness of EVA foam on Amazon too. Like you can buy just sheets of it, and you can choose from like 2 to 10 millimeters, because I did that once and bought the wrong size. So you can get bigger sheets there than you can like plastic cutting board mats often. All right, next question. Billy A, not to be confused with Billy B. Billy A asks, so glad you're doing this. I plan to make an Apex underquilt for using backpacking in the Adirondacks and Green Mountains. What would be the best outer and inner shells or inner shell layers? Keeping in mind that it's almost always raining in the Adirondacks, I'm thinking 1 ounce Hyper D, but I'm not certain.
So 1 ounce Hyper D is a good option if you're looking for something that's pretty durable, considering where you'll be. I think the 1/1 ripstop that we carry is really comfortable and nice and plenty durable. I also think that no matter what quilt you have on the inside, you can use something lighter that's a little bit softer and save some weight and also just feel a little bit more comfortable. So I recommend like Mim 10 ripstop or something of that nature personally.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what I had my quilt made out of, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And it's great. I just sent some fabric to one of our really good customers and got a custom quilt made, and it was really cool.
He used it in the military fields.
I did.
All you have to say about Isaac is that it's really cool.
It kept me warm.
A man of many words.
Many words. Haywood, thank you for sending in this question. They ask, has anyone ever thought about MYOG luggage? I'm talking checked bags at the airport type of luggage. It's on my bucket list of MYOG projects, and I'm curious if you guys were going to make one, / how you would make it or what fabric you would use. My thoughts so far. I'm thinking I want to make a frame out of aluminum bars or tubes. Then for fabric, I'm kind of worried that the weave on something like 1680D Cordura would be too loose and eventually get caught on conveyor belts, etc. But maybe a coated fabric like TPU or CSM Polyester, but that can get pretty expensive. Isaac, what are your thoughts on MYOG luggage?
I've definitely thought about it. However, I've soon become very discouraged by looking at some of the hard-sided, suitcases that are out there and thinking that that's way above my skill level. But I mean, I could see you definitely using 1000D Cordura or 1680. That stuff is stupid resilient. I mean, like super abrasion resistant. And then maybe using the CSM polyester for like the corner reinforcements or like the edges or something like that to, reinforce those places where the abrasion would, possibly have a bigger chance of getting through that. But
what do you think the technical aspect to making luggage would be? That like a hard-sided type of luggage, it seems like a really difficult process, but in a lot of ways, like using the same stitches and same techniques, like where does the challenge come in with that type of project?
I mean, in my mind, I think it would be like getting the fabric taut over the skin, because like you would either have to have like your dimensions would have to be within like millimeters, to get it tight.
Also, luggage like that is normally using like injection molded parts, right?
Yeah.
That are not, so it's not just as simple as I guess you can make like a framed box and then put stuff around it, but that's not really the same thing as having like a custom molded piece where normally the fabric is like adhered onto it. It's not like you're sewing it in that way. So I think you're also probably not using the same stitches, right? Like they're accomplishing that through using all kinds of really specific, like different arm-spaced machines to be able to get to all those crazy tight curves that you have to do. So I think it would just be really hard.
Those aren't made in a garage, is what you're saying.
Maybe they are somewhere, but not a garage I've been to.
Who's the Apple dude? Bill Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs of suitcase world.
Yeah.
Old Bill Jobs, not to be confused with Billy A.
Yeah, Billy A. Billy J. John A. Hey guys, if I don't want my tarp to sag in the rain, am I better off using Sil Nylon or Silpoly? I think this gets down to a broader question that we talked about Dan Durston, and I think that's how you're going to answer it, but I just want people to know the difference about those.
Okay. That's okay. Timeout. You caught me off guard. That happens further down, so I wasn't prepared for this, you piece of... Also, can I just say that whenever you said the dude's name was called Haywood, I immediately almost said, is his last name Jablomi? And then I couldn't stop laughing.
That's why you were laughing?
Yeah.
That?
Okay.
All right. 3.
Wait, hold on. Where am I? Fuck. All right. Sorry about that.
You were just going to say Silpoly for this, right?
Just let me just add.
Well, no, because now he...
I'll just re-ask the question. Just give it a moment's silence so I can see where to break it, and we'll go. John A. says, hey guys, if I don't want my tarp to sag in the rain, am I better off with Sil Nylon or Silpoly?
Oh, yeah, definitely Silpoly. Both of them at this point, the coatings have been refined where they're both pretty good, but Silpoly, polyester by nature, is hydrophobic, so it's going to sag less. Also, I recommend putting some cat cuts in there, catenary cuts, or some way of removing material so that you can get a tighter pitch from the beginning.
Cool. There's a question later on that we'll talk more about Sil Nylon, Silpoly. Stay tuned to hear kind of the technical stuff behind that. Isaac, next question is for you. This is from somebody named No Name.
It says no name, dog.
I know.
I know you know. That was me playing along.
I know.
You want to fight?
Isaac, question from No Name says, which fabric should I use for a fanny pack?
So I would say pretty much anything. Like you can use something as lightweight as like 1/1 Silpoly, and you'll have like a stuffable, packable fanny pack, like what you'd see it in the REI Flash series, all the way up to like 1000D Cordura. I mean, I've made fanny packs out of 500D Cordura, and then I recently made one out of Ultra 200, and I love it. So it just kind of depends on the look that you want and the kind of usability you're looking for.
Also, we're huge fanny pack proponents, so anything that you can make a fanny pack out of is going to be rad.
When he says he means that he's made about 37 in the past 37 days. He has a problem.
Given 34 away.
Hey, more power to you, fanny boy.
For our European listeners, thank you very much. Gail A. says, I'm looking for material to make covers for dog crates. The material needs to be lightweight and breathable so dogs have adequate airflow. I know that most / all of your products are wind and or waterproof, but I thought I'd ask anyway.
Yeah, so I think our mostly anything would work probably, but I tend to say that in this case where it's something that might get scratched on or have some abrasion on it in some way, that you could go with 2.2 HEX70, the uncoated version, so it's still breathable, but also pretty durable. So yeah, 2.2 HEX70 XL DWR non-waterproof. Send us pictures of what you make, please.
Also, a wonderful fabric for a sunshade.
No. That's why you're asking the questions.
Go back to episode 34 for reference there, but made a grave error when I was early in my making journey. Isaac, next question's for you. Jacob W. says, I've made a few projects. I was wondering if you knew of anybody making a sheath for tools. I work in a carpentry shop, and most of the guys carry pliers in a custom leather craft sheaths. Has anyone made a sheath for a tool out of fabric instead of leather? If so, what material would be good for this type of application?
What's up, Jacob? Yeah, I've definitely seen, I guess, pouches for tools made with fabric. Because I would say, I would say pouches in this case instead of a sheath, because the sheath is going to be like more form fitting, right? Like with leather, it's going to be fitted to the curves of the tool, or with Kydex, they're going to be fitted to the curves. But I've definitely seen people make like pouches specifically for tools out of, Cordura, Robic, like any of those heavier weight, like 500D plus fabrics. So it's possible.
The final question that we have in the fabric application section is for both of you. KM Buckley says, your personal preference or pros and cons of tie-up material, things like grosgrain, paracord, or homemade sil nylon straps. I don't know what a homemade sil nylon strap is, so enlighten me with that one at least.
Yeah, so I've read over this a few times, and I think we decided that this was meaning like the portion of the shelter where there is a loop of some sort that you would actually tie your guy lines to. So that's how I'm going to answer this. And I actually think we might have the same answer at this point, but we might not have always had the same answer. And that is to basically in all shelters for the most part, which I usually use a tarp, so maybe a tent would be different, but for any tarp, I normally bind the tarp in grosgrain and then use like, I add on grosgrain to follow the curves and then connect it back on itself with a loop. So it pulls across the grosgrain. I don't put I don't attach anything to the material itself at all. So that's how I do it.
You make like little ears with the grosgrain that you attach back to the grosgrain. So you're not putting more holes in the Silpoly, but it's like double reinforced on itself.
Yeah, so if you look at like UGQ tarps, that's exactly how I do it.
Isaac, do you have a difference or a technical addition to add on there?
No, I mean, before I started my ultralight journey, I would say I would have said, something like paracord or webbing.
Tubular webbing?
I have even used tubular webbing. Not the greatest choice, not a good choice at all, but it's been done.
It's durable.
Yeah, unless you're like hand stitching it, like I did for my first.
There's a level of commitment there that you got to commend.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely agree with Carter.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best I've seen. I'm
literally going to be sewing a tarp tomorrow, and I'll be doing that method as well. So shout out to Carter and I guess UGQ. So this is not an official question, but there's kind of a theory that I want to go over briefly while we're in the fabric application segment, which is the fabric application triad. I know we've talked about this 1,000 times before, but I don't think it can be said enough, Carter.
It's like the thing that I randomly made up on one of the podcasts that
I
didn't even really know what I was saying. I would say that there was a higher deity flowing through me at the time, but it turns out that it ended up like being something that we
being pretty genius. Yeah. So the fabric application triad, it's overwhelming to show up to our site and sort through 300 variants of fabrics or whatever to find the right one that you want. But Carter coined this, as you just heard, on the fly, which is what?
Honestly, like I said, it wasn't me speaking at the time.
Okay,
I think it is
price, durability, and weight.
Yes.
So when you're going through, think of the project that you want to create. If it's a backpack, what's the highest preference? Is it price, durability, or weight? Once you prioritize those, you'll have a much easier time choosing the fabric. Most often, Dyneema or Ultra might be the best option for certain things, but it's not going to be the cheapest. So price, durability, and weight, if you think about those things in terms of application, you'll often get a good result. So just something you guys can take, or any of you listening can take home and apply to your future applications. Okay, segment 2 is current products. So these are questions about the products that we're currently offering, whether they're technical things, spec things, or just things that they need to know from experts themselves. All right, Alan says, my question is, what is a new fabric or material you've stocked that you think most people don't appreciate yet?
Yeah, thanks, Alan. I think this is an awesome question. So for me, I think it's the Melange, the woven Melange with Dyneema. It's an awesome pack fabric. It has tons of durability in forms of abrasion resistance and tear resistance. It looks really cool. It has like the heathered look, so I think it's applicable to both outdoor technical stuff as well as EDC type of bags that look a little more polished. I just think that I'd love to see more of that out there. Shout out to Matt from Red Paw because he uses that a lot, and I like it.
I would say the Light Skin series from Dimension Polyant. I really like the way it looks. It sucks to work with because it like rolls really badly, but I really like the way it looks.
Next question is from Maddie. Maddie says, hello, does the Silpoly or Sil Nylon offer greater protection against UV than a regular Ripstop Nylon? Also, what are the major differences between calendared Ripstop Nylon versus Sil Nylon? For what aspects would you recommend one over the other? So kind of a loaded question here, but I think Isaac's got it covered.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on. So first off, Silpoly versus Sil Nylon for UV resistance. First off, the silicone coating does provide some UV protection, but it's not. The biggest difference is in the fiber. Polyester is inherently more UV resistant because of the bonds between the atoms of the fiber, right? And then, so next we have major differences between calendared Ripstop Nylon versus Sil Nylon. So calendared Ripstop Nylon is basically a Ripstop Nylon that goes through the calendaring process, which is basically two really big heated rollers. And then that kind of seals the pores, basically, think of it as pores, of those fibers. It's not giving it any type of like extra water resistance or capabilities, whereas the silicone coating is filling the gaps between those pores and giving it more water resistance, if that makes sense. Anything to add?
Yeah, I think they actually both increase tear and abrasion a little bit, but silicone does much more than that. You can have like a really quality silicone coating can drastically affect like the tear strength of a material, which a lot of people don't realize. But yeah, I think he went into more science than I've ever done in my life.
And then the final part of that question, what aspects would you recommend one over the other? So the calendared is always going to be good for like windproof and downproof situations, so more like apparel type things. And then the silicone coated is going to be more for shelters like tarps, tents, things like that, rain jackets. So yeah.
Dina asks a really important question, especially with the events currently going on with environmental protection and such. But Dina asks, is Ripstop bad for the environment? How can nylon and polyester be made more eco-friendly? And finally, does Ripstop by the roll offer eco-friendly fabrics?
Yeah, this is an important question. So is Ripstop bad for the environment? That question, I think, is more complex than a yes or no answer. I think that there are lots of things that aren't the best for the environment. But as you mentioned, there are ways that we can, both that we already do and ways that we can influence the textile industry and just like what we offer to make things better for the environment. One of those is an initiative that we've already started, which is the water-resistant coatings that go on the materials can often be really bad for the environment. So we've chosen to kind of do away with a lot of the traditional ones. And you see other companies doing this as well, to go with a PFC-free coating. Eventually, I would like to get to a spot where the coatings are like completely 1,000,000% safe. I just don't know that the science is there yet.
Or accessible.
Right. And then the other obvious one is using like post-consumer recycled fiber. So you take nylon or polyester that's been recycled from other things, and you can actually make fabric out of that instead of creating it from scratch, creating more plastic from scratch. So that is one thing that we offer in our eco lines. We just released one recently in 1.6 Hyper D Eco, and we definitely plan on bringing a lot more on, including things like recycled Cordura, and just the list goes on for what we want to do. I wish that, you know, tomorrow we could wake up and everything that we had was recycled, but we're definitely, that is a top priority for not only for us, but I think the outdoor industry as a whole.
just a quick list, quick list of other eco-friendly fabrics that we have. We have 1/1 Silpoly, eco. We have what's the other one? Something calendared. What's the other eco fabric?
1.1 RPC eco.
1/1 RPC eco, 1/1 Silpoly eco. We have the Eco Pack line. We have the Ultra line from Challenge, as well as the RX line from X-Pack. And then the 1/6 Hyper D eco. And like they said, there's some more things coming out, but those are the maybe 12 fabrics we have right now.
Yes, very soon we will have some other recycled fabrics as quickly as we can get them online.
There's a great video that we did with Kyle just a few months ago talking about PFC-free fabrics. It goes into it a little bit. If you're interested in that video, check it out on YouTube. All right. This question is from a Reddit user. Thanks to everyone that sent in Reddit questions on the RMYOG list. Thanks for everybody that sent in questions, period. But Essential Burnout says, not having a lot of textile background, I often have trouble picking out the best fabric for my application. One thing I run into is a lack of, quote, strength comparison between fabrics. I assume all other things being equal or higher denier means that it is stronger, but I'd like something more quantitative. Is there a measurement of abrasion or tensile strength that could be used to compare fabrics?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Essential Burnout. So just one thing to note real quick. Typically, yes, higher denier means stronger. However, like Carter just mentioned a few minutes ago, there can be coatings that are added to a fabric post weaving that will make it stronger. So just because something is 1.1 Silpoly doesn't mean it's going to tear out the minute you put some strain on it. But as far as the quantitative way to look at these things, you have industry standards. In this case, we use ASTM standards for tear and tensile strength, and those tests are ASTM 1424 for tear, and then ASTM 5034 for tensile, if you're interested in looking them up. But producing data sheets is something that we're working on continuously. And data sheets are the things that you'll be able to find those numbers on. And we're working on getting those data sheets onto our website for all of the fabrics. But for now, you can find all the ones that we have in our resource center on the website. And then I think some of our recent fabrics that we've released have those on the product page, like 1.6 Hyper D Eco has it on the product page. That's the only one I can think of right now.
Yeah, there's maybe 15 or 16, I think, that have them on there, but that's the only one that came to mind as well.
Yeah. That's the most recent one that we added.
Yeah. But check the data sheets, look at those tear and tensile strength numbers, and that'll give you the best quantitative look at that.
We could probably talk about this for an entire episode, so I don't want to do that. But there is a certain level of nuance that comes with the data sheet, I think, that I guess, how would you recommend someone that's not really used to looking at those? We look at those almost every day sometimes. For someone that's never looked at a data sheet before and they look at a tensile strength of 98 pounds per force or whatever, how do you kind of coach somebody to reading a data sheet for the first time to help them have a better idea of what that fabric would be like?
I mean, at a rudimentary level, you're looking at the numbers between the two things you're comparing, and the higher one is stronger.
That's even a good point though. Sort of just find a comparison. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but if you want to understand those numbers better, just pull up something else.
Yeah, I mean, and likely based on the question, you're not going to be comparing because we've already established that typically higher denier is going to be stronger. I doubt you're going to be comparing 1680D to 1.1 Ripstop Nylon because you already know which of those is stronger, right? You're going to be comparing 500D Cordura to 3 Hyper D 300 or something and trying to figure out the difference. So typically, if you're comparing those, you're looking at those numbers. I would say that although those are quantitative, those are lab results that are very specific tests and standards. It doesn't necessarily mean that if one of them has a lower tear strength on those standards that they're bad, right? You're talking about a very specific test that has a certain amount of weight that's dropping it, and then two things are pulling it apart. But it can be one way to quantitatively compare those two.
Like waterproofness is an example. Like just because something has a hydrostatic head of one has 20,000, one has 5,000, the 5,000 isn't gonna just like pour water all over you.
Yeah, at a certain point, you're talking about, yeah, I say this a lot, which is kind of funny. Is like, yeah, it's more waterproof.
Yeah,
which obviously doesn't actually mean anything, but what it's basically saying, okay, if it's over like 1,500 millimeters of hydrostatic head, it's probably, we just consider that waterproof. It's not going to allow water through in a rainstorm.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads us to the next question.
Frank Bauman, I think it's Bowman.
It's Bowman.
Cool.
Bauman?
Frank Bauman says comparison of waterproofness and other use considerations across tarp materials, things like DCF, Nylon, Silpoly, etc.
I'm trying to figure out what the question is here. Comparison of waterproofness.
I think Frank just wants to know, like, hey, it's basically what I was just mentioning, right? It's like, okay, I see that this has a hydrostatic head of greater than 10,000, and this one says greater than 2,000 millimeters. What does that actually mean to me? Like, and it's pretty much what I just said, which is they're both waterproof, but eventually one of them will wet out under like extreme amount of like water pressure from above, or over time, one of them, as the silicone coating ages on one of them, that will slowly start to go down. Those pores that Isaac talked about earlier start to have less fill in between them. That coating can wear down over time, and then you might have an aged hydrostatic head, which is another standard test of 800 instead of 1,500.
In the simplest way, hydrostatic head, how is that tested? Like what does, like I don't think people would expect to see 4,000 millimeters as a result. What does that mean? Like what is the test doing that results in the quality being in millimeters?
So Isaac can stop me if I start saying something dumb, because he's the smart one of the two of us.
Isaac, why don't you explain
I
it?
don't think that's true.
So let me try, and then
Okay.
you yell really loudly if it's wrong. And I'll say, I have to excuse myself. I'm just kidding. So at a very basic level, you're taking, let's just say you're taking a section of ripstop, you're putting it, you're like stretching it out, like over something, like let's just say you had a jar. Okay, you take the Silpoly and you stretch it over the jar and clamp it down so that it's under tension, and then you take like a test tube or like a column.
I was going to say cylinder, call it.
Yeah,
better.
and that's graduated in millimeters, and then you pour water into it until water comes out the other side of it. So when it says 4,000 millimeters, that means you literally would have 4,000 millimeters of water up before the pressure was so heavy that the silicone coating failed. Is that semi-close?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it.
Ha,
Nice.
that's right.
All right.
School of Hard Knocks, baby.
That does it for current product or the current product segment, which brings us to the next segment, product onboarding. So questions about things that we'd like to bring on or things that we're in development or testing for, things that we can answer regarding those things at least. So from Reddit user, does my username matter?
I mean, that's a question in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't know which question to answer now, because the first question is, does my username matter? The second question is, I love the patterns and kits you offer. Will you offer more varied patterns or kits in the future or for other gear? Things like a pattern kit for a netted hammock or maybe a basic one-person tent. Or, does my username even matter?
First off, no. Second off, go ahead, Isaac.
You matter, though.
You matter, but your username does not.
Yeah. So yes, we will be bringing on more patterns. We are working with Tim from Learn MYOG to bring on some of his patterns. That's very close to being manifested into reality. So be on the lookout for that. As far as like netted hammocks or a tent, that isn't in the works yet, but hopefully maybe someday down the line we could work on doing something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to add those things. It's we have to take it one step at a time, because we are a smaller team and we have a lot of things that we want to add. But yeah, one day I would hope to have a laser cut netted hammock kit, if not only for myself, so I can cut it out with the laser and not just buy them all the time. And
there's also like an organizational structure that we're sort of going into now that we're loosely titling the MYOG machine. Without promising too much, Carter, like what does that mean for makers and patterns?
Yeah, so basically we're trying to structure just how we view the customer journey somewhat through reflection of our own journeys in MYOG. And I've really decided that for the most part, what we're trying to do is like help people enjoy their hobbies and activities more through the gear that they make. So we've done some surveys and things and really identified that although everybody kind of has different interests, we can really narrow that down to a selection of activities or hobbies that we really want to dial in and start offering more kits for those things, so that the people that shop with us and that are, you know, looking to make things can find exactly what they want instead of trying to come up with a kit themselves. So for instance, let's just say cycling, right? That we have 0 cycling kits right now, but there are a lot of people out there that are bike packing, or we have a lot of B2B customers that are doing bike packing stuff. So now that we've identified that, we're starting the process of starting to create those kits categorically, so that we can increase our offerings site-wide for all the different types of activities that people would like to do. Instead of just saying, like, okay, let's make, I think today I want to make dog collar kit, and then just make that. We want to actually make things that people want, which dog collar kit is one of them, by the way. I wasn't saying,
yeah,
if you want that, we will definitely make that, but you get my point.
Yeah. Next question is from Jim Guther, I think. Sorry, Jim. Any plans to sell TPU-coated ripstop fabrics, things that are capable of heat sealing instead of sewing?
Yeah, maybe one day. It's certainly been on the development sheet. We're also trying to be cognizant of how those coatings affect the environment to create and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't ever carry something like that. But we also want to make sure that if we do release a TPU-coated fabric, that it's very heat sealable. So there's a lot of testing that goes into what temperatures would be best for that. I would also want to carry some sort of iron that would allow us to do it. So I don't just want to release it and then say, oh, by the way, you have to figure out, make a campfire and see if you can get them to bond together or whatever. Yeah. So yes, one day for sure.
Awesome. The next question is from Jeff. I'm into DIY backpacking gear, and I've made stuff sacks, hammocks, underquilts, along with cook sets. I've been eyeing the Dyneema bear bag kit on Ripstop by the Roll, but it never seems to be in stock. When will we see that item back in the online store? Cheers and happy hiking.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, this is I know it's frustrating. I know the Dyneema shortage has been frustrating for a lot of people.
And our fulfillment shortage.
Yeah, but the short answer is soon. We're working on hiring more people. Our new GM, Jason, has done a great job of just hopping in and trying to get new people on the line and making sure that stuff stays in stock. And it seems like the Dyneema shortage is coming to an end. Seems like we're getting more every day. So hopefully soon those will be back in stock and will stay in stock.
This might be the only question I have actual insight to add on, but on top of that, for more info, we recently did a podcast with Dyneema and they talk about their supply chain and things like that. So if you want to hear more about that, go check out episode 38, I believe. But they have more shifts going to produce more Dyneema, but also we're currently in the process of hiring a production coordinator as well. So that's another piece that will help with keeping some of these kits in stock so that Jason and Kyle aren't running around with many full-time jobs in their hands. So to delegate some of those things. So we are in the process of interviewing people kind of as you'll hear this episode. So there will be productions happening soon to get those things back in stock. Next question is from Harlan. Occasionally, I need to make something light, breathable, and very abrasion resistant. Example, I make shin guard areas for light zip-off pants. I'd like to use something like Challenge Ultra 200, but not waterproof. I know that pure UHMWPE is a nightmare to handle, but I'm hoping there's some polyester or nylon or a UHMWPE hybrid that is not waterproof. Currently, I use Key Protect.
So it's like an aramid nylon. It's like Kevlar mixed with nylon.
Oh, okay. So Kep Protect, aramid and nylon. but it has some undesirable features. Will you ever again offer a non-waterproof UHMWPE hybrid?
Yeah, so Harlan, when you say again, I assume you're referring to Dyneema demo days, where one of the fabrics that was extremely popular was this. I think it was like, it might have been 1.2 ounce per square yard, but it was a nylon 6.6 ripstop with a UHMWPE grid, but it was uncoated. And yes, absolutely. I don't want to give away too many secrets, but certainly something that we recognize could be cool for a lot of apparel, as well as possibly hammocks, as well as other stuff. And that's something that we're working on as we speak to make happen. So thanks for the question. And I agree with you. That's something that we want to carry.
You can also try the Melange with DWR.
Yeah, there is a breathable Melange that you could use. It is in both colors. Mm-hmm. So that's something that you could use. It's a little bit heavier, but yeah, good point, Isaac. You could definitely use that.
Great, Rec. Carol's a super listener. She sent in a ton of questions for today, and we're really, really appreciative of that, but also just thanks for listening as always, Carol. Is it true that you'll be carrying merino fabric soon, or is that just an exciting rumor? Sounds like there may be plans for carrying some fabrics that would be more suited for making clothes. Is that true? And if so, what will you be carrying?
This is an exciting question for me because
it's kind of your baby.
Yeah, apparel is kind of my background. So specifically merino fabric, like 100% merino, has been difficult to source, but I'm still working on it. Sooner rather than later, we'll be getting Polartec, and then Polartec Alpha Direct with wool. So we will have one fabric coming that has some wool content. So stay tuned for that. And I mean, this is something that we're trying to ramp up our apparel fabric selections, as well as these patterns that, we're going to be working with Tim from Learn MYOG, because he has a lot of really cool apparel patterns, like the Alpha Raglan hoodie. So we're going to be carrying the Alpha so that you can get that pattern and the Alpha from us and make awesome hoodies. So more coming soon.
When we did a development survey several months ago, it was unanimously clear that you all really wanted more apparel options and apparel things. So we are looking to bring that on. I know it's probably taken longer than, we all would have hoped, frankly. But between the kits or patterns from Learn MYOG with a lot of the fabrics that Isaac and Carter are bringing on, we are starting to finally fulfill some of those things. And I think it's really exciting for all of us here. We're not just gear nerds with backpacks. We're kind of gear nerds with everything that we wear and bring. So we're really pumped for all of that. So we're about halfway through these questions now. Thank you for everyone that's made it so far, and thank you for everyone that sent in a question. We are going to push off the other segments for the part 2 of this series, or the Ask Us Anything part 3, which will come out a week from now. So if you're hearing this on the Wednesday it's released, it'll come out on July 13th. So you'll hear the second half coming up soon. Thank you to everyone. Don't forget to rate, subscribe. It's really easy. If you go into iTunes and just click Ripstop on the record or go find us, then you can just scroll down and click 5 stars. We would really, really appreciate the support and the feedback on what you guys like, so we can continue to do this and hopefully give you guys a lot of information.
Yeah, so remember, sign up for the Maker Challenge. Make something that solves a problem. You don't have to be awesome at sewing to do it. And then also, please listen to part 2 of this next week. I promise it gets even spicier, and you don't want to miss it.
I don't know if that's true, but I like it.
Thank you. I've been working on that. As
always, make good gear.
Drink good beer.
And also, hydrate.
And comment on the podcast.
You have a lot of tasks to do.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.